Training, upskilling, and job support services at no cost to participants, thanks to the generosity of donors and shoppers. Learn more at giveit2goodwill.org/donate.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville, a Roundabout edition. Last May's immigration enforcement blitz here in Nashville made a lot of headlines at the time, and that was before we had more than 50 hours of body camera footage. Now it's out. We can judge the tactics for ourselves, and we'll go deep on that reporting. This hour will also look at legislative efforts to permit discrimination of gay marriage, an end to gender-affirming surgeries in Nashville, and a green light for our big dig to tunnel for Teslas to the airport from downtown. Your input is welcome anytime we're doing these Roundabout episodes. The phone lines are open at 615-760-2000. You can also comment live as we go in the video stream, which is at youtube.com/@WPLN. One day we're going to make that URL easier, but that's where we are right now. Our panel today includes Sophie, Esteves, Varvella, Vicente, Divinity student at Vanderbilt. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Bill Phillips, who served as deputy mayor for both Bill Purcell and, quite a few years later, John Cooper, has held many positions in Republican politics as well over the years. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And Sarah Grace Taylor, reporter at the Nashville Banner, who has been watching a lot of video of late. Thank you for coming out of wherever cave you watch these videos in and talking to us about it.
Thanks, Blake.
We're going to first spend the first part of the show kind of camped out on this body cam footage obtained by the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition that was shared with several media organizations in tandem with Lighthouse Reports. Here's a sample of what's caught on tape. Officers talking about how many people they detained and saying that they're luring them to the wolf's den.
But there was a bunch of them all at that one little spot. There was 3 there.
Yeah, we had 1 before that, the 3 there. When did we have
and then I took that young guy, the 22-year-old, this dude.
Yeah.
Always opportunity. You never miss an opportunity.
I think, him, he's number 8.
Just call him to the wolf's den. Never miss an opportunity.
Hopefully they roll up in a big truck, a bunch of them, and it's like, well, there's 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Well, the challenge there is they should call somebody to get their car.
Exactly.
Sarah Grace, can you kind of explain a little bit about what's going on there? Give us some context.
Yeah, so that's conversation between ICE agents who were in town last May and a Tennessee Highway patrolman. They had stopped a vehicle for speeding. That man was put in detention by ICE, and they were waiting for a vehicle of his friends to come get his vehicle. And they had premeditated that they would stop those people when they arrived, and that was them cutting up about the idea of luring people in to make more immigration arrests.
So they'd stopped somebody, said, you want somebody to come get your car. They were waiting and then talking about hoping that there was a big bunch of people who were going to come and get the car.
Yeah.
Do we know what happened? Did they come?
So the gentleman who was originally stopped, his brother and their 2 roommates who are also brothers, showed up to retrieve his car, and all 3 of them were also arrested by ICE.
So it wasn't as many as they were joking about, but it did happen, as they said.
Exactly.
There's so much in this more than 50 hours of footage, and you have watched it all. What stands out?
I think watching all of the footage, there are a lot of kind of benign stops that you see and a lot of stops that end really quickly because they seem to have something else that they're trying to do. But in the stops where they interact significantly with someone who's an immigrant or a suspected immigrant, there's a lot of just kind of demeaning behavior, particularly from ICE, but also sometimes from THP. They used a variety of different slurs and pejoratives to describe people, including bodies. And then they also physically marked on people's skin to write which team of law enforcement had made the arrest. And it's just somewhat dehumanizing, as they put it, hunt that they went on for people.
Yeah. Well, Sophie, what is it about the writing on someone's body that I don't know, maybe harkens to other periods of our history? Or why is that kind of sticking with folks?
I think that coming from the Vanderbilt Divinity School, the particular language that they're using is mark of the beast, which we see in the Bible in Revelation. This is to signify someone who has been indoctrinated by the Antichrist. So I think it's particularly off-putting for me as someone who is spiritual and a faith believer to see folks using the Christian language to demonize folks who are immigrants.
Let's play just one more clip, and we won't make you listen to a bunch of this. And frankly, a lot of it, the language we can't have on the air anyway. But officers are searching a car of someone who was just detained.
You got IDs?
Oh, no, it's not an ID. It's he works for Mexican restaurant. He's the manager. The guacamole's never going to taste the same now.
Well, add that to the list of restaurants I can never go back to.
All right, you're going to hear from me, customer, Ico, Tango.
I'm hot right now.
So those are little different ways for me to just send a message.
Okay.
Okay, Sarah Grace, tell me kind of what's going on there, because there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, so the first guacamole comment is a disparaging remark that ICE makes about a gentleman who's in detention or who's detained in the back of their car.
And what they're looking for identification in his car, they find his badge, and it's like, oh, he's the manager of the restaurant.
What they're doing is an inventory, so they're not really looking for his ID. They'd already done the stop, but they go through people's cars and say, like, he had X belongings in his vehicle. And then one of them comes across his work uniform in the front seat and makes the joke about the local Mexican restaurant that he works at.
Yeah.
And then you hear another agent come join the group and talk about customers and different terminology he might use to describe people who they're targeting. Earlier in the same stop video, he actually started that conversation with a trooper who points out that he's wearing a body cam. And the ICE agent says, like, oh, I was trying to find a nice way to say illegals, and then references the body cam.
And so, like, in that, you say the THP officer says, whoa, I'm hot. In other words, he's referencing he has a body camera on.
Exactly.
Bill Phillips, I guess one would think that with all that we've heard, that maybe the ICE officers didn't realize they were being recorded. But I don't know. What stands out to you here?
Amateurs, particularly ICE, they have not received the training. At that point, they didn't have body cams. They didn't know about them. They forgot they were there, and so they were misbehaving and being recorded on it. You're also seeing a little bit of, isn't this cool? We're part of a task force from the highway patrolman. They think look, we're with a big federal group.
Yeah.
And so they got off track. Plus, you're just seeing some bigotry. There's no other way to put it.
To listeners here, what stands out to you? The language of officers, the apparent competition to arrest more people, the seeming uncertainty among state troopers that this is the best way to spend their time, which there's some comments that Sarah Grace reports on about that. You can join our conversation at 615-760-2000 or in the chat of the video stream. That's at youtube.com/@WPLN. In a budget hearing, I believe it was yesterday, THP Colonel Matt Perry was somewhat apologetic after being questioned by Democrats about this body cam footage.
Troopers saying things and our cameras picking up ICE agents saying inappropriate things. We will handle that and address that. We expect higher of our people.
Bill Phillips, with all we've heard nationally, like from leaders of ICE and Border Patrol, kind of doubling down on some of the tactics at times. Were you surprised to hear that the colonel who leads the highway patrol was like, yeah, there was some inappropriate stuff here?
No, I wasn't surprised the colonel had that to say, because he is a professional. He has many years of background, and it sounds like maybe he has a little bit of a head on his shoulders, and he was doing what a professional, what a police chief would do, or our commander of highway patrol.
But Sarah Grace, you reached out to them, I'm sure, extensively for comment, and they did not, I don't think, before your stories came out?
They did comment. They didn't answer specific questions.
Yeah.
They gave kind of a blanket statement that mirrored what they said in May, which is, hey, we were just out doing traffic, which is also what the colonel said yesterday, if you hear the whole speech that he gave. He's currently, like, as we speak, doing the same thing before the House, and the question may come up again I was a little bit late because I was trying to talk to him in the hallway about it. So we haven't gotten much of an answer, and we haven't from the governor either, who I asked about it this morning at a press conference, and he just reiterated our troopers are doing what they're supposed to do. It's about public safety, which, of course, we reported that the numbers don't really align with that.
Yeah. Bill?
Yeah, well, and the real key here is follow-up. He has said this in a public, and he's on record, and we'll see if he follows up. And I'm hopeful that he will, but I have some doubt that some of the people above him are going to be as enthusiastic.
Sophie, there's a lot of language that was used that we haven't even brought up, and we won't play any more clips, but talking about someone looking like a terrorist during a stop, calling someone wet, which I assume is shorthand for, a slur that a lot of us have heard for immigrants coming from Mexico or otherwise. The customer thing that Sarah Grace was talking about. What about the language revealed here? What does that reveal about the operation itself?
I think in reviewing the footage and hearing this language, a lot of it seems to be racially motivated or ethnically motivated. There is a implicit bias that is happening. There is profiling that is directed towards immigrant communities throughout Nashville, particularly Nolensville Pike. As we've seen, that's where a majority of their activity has been. Because they are looking for someone who fits the profile, and this is based on descriptive ethics of face value. Do you look like you are an immigrant? Do you look like you are a brown person? And as a result, we will pursue you.
We welcome comments from listeners on this topic. There's a lot to digest. A more than 5,000 word story in the Banner, and other outlets also had this footage, and you may have seen it on TV, at least News Channel 5 was the TV partner. Our number is 615-760-2000. Well, Bill, it sounds like we've got at least, the governor saying this morning that Sarah Grace, that troopers are doing the job that they were asked to do?
Yeah, he said that he was unfamiliar with the specifics, which I had sent him a link and questions a week ago, and I brought that up to him. And he then said that, but mind you, this is a press conference he did today at a Tennessee Highway Patrol graduation.
Oh, my.
And I asked him, do you think this is appropriate, or has the governor's office done anything to audit this operation and see if it was effective? And he said that it was effective in catching criminals, and that the families of the victims of the so-called criminals that were arrested would probably appreciate the operation.
Well, go into some detail on that, because your reporting shows that there were very few criminals who were arrested as part of this, right? What did you find?
Right. So originally, ICE didn't share really a number of stops, but they said that they had made around 196, I believe, arrests. Immigration arrests, and then they claimed 5 very serious criminals, one who is a convicted rapist, one who is a wanted murderer, and one who was involved in MS-13.
A gang.
Right, the Mexican gang MS-13. And then we went into the arrest records and found it was more like 150 immigration arrests. And then we found that of those 5 so-called serious criminals, at least 2 of them were not picked up as a result of this traffic operation. They were picked up during that same time frame, but I was able to confirm that they were picked up at routine probation and parole hearings. So these were just known people who they picked up to seemingly package with this to justify the 600 stops that they made.
And it came down to what, 2 people who were arrested somewhat as part of this operation with
at
criminal
most
records?
3, we don't know exactly.
Bill, how do you think, we've heard what the governor said, I suppose, this morning, but can you kind of give us a peek behind the curtains, with this peek behind the curtains of this immigration enforcement operation? How do you think it is landing with the Republican leadership of the state, maybe beyond what they might say at a press conference today? Well,
we've got a national problem in terms of the Republican leadership wants to please the so-called Republican governor or president. Mm-hmm. And so they will say things, couch it like they're supporting him. And so they say, we got the criminals off the street. Well, technically, an illegal immigrant has broken the law. But the real problem here is Congress hasn't done its job for decades and fixed our bad policy that we have. It's outdated. It doesn't work. And there's the problem, is our leadership is not addressing the problem.
Let's take a quick phone call, and then we'll get to you, Sarah Grace and Sophie. Caleb in Nashville, you're on the show. Maybe want to chime in right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I do want to echo what the gentleman just said.
Yeah, Bill Phillips.
I don't think that leadership... Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. I don't think that the leadership of the Highway Patrol, and especially of ICE and other federal agencies, I do not think that they're being truthful. I think there is a status quo that they're holding themselves to. And unfortunately, it attacks my neighbors and attacks my community, and makes children feel unsafe, makes families feel unsafe, and kind of pushes everyone into political corners, which is not what we should be doing. If the effort is safety for everyone, and if the effort is the rule of law, then I think they're operating way outside of the bounds of it. And unfortunately, the answers and intentions that they give are there to cloak a racism and to cloak an agenda of this white supremacy that is so deep in the culture of where I've grown up in Texas and where I've lived in Tennessee. And it just breaks my heart for my children and for the next generation and for my community members.
Caleb, really appreciate the phone call. And you can join him on air at 615-760-2000. Sarah Grace, we're going to have to close this segment in a second, but can you close with this scene of, I think it was a mother who was like sort of talking back and saying, you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah. So what we had was body cam, but there were also backseat footage from the few instances when someone was sitting in the back of a trooper's vehicle. And there was one woman who was stopped for allegedly driving into the bike lane, and they picked her up, ICE did, and she was in detention in the back of a trooper's car. He was doing paperwork. And she says, you know what you're doing, look at them, because the ICE agents are outside making another stop, cracking up, enjoying what they're doing. And she was saying, look at them taking so much pleasure in what they're doing, and I know you're just doing your job, but you're part of it.
We're happy to come back to this today. We've got many other headlines to dig into, but we're going to take our first break. When we come back, Republicans resist an immigration detention center in Lebanon and seem to have won. A win for sanctuary city policies to a degree. And what do you make of this week's headlines otherwise? You can join us on air at 615-760-2000 or comment in the chat of the video stream, youtube.com/@WPLN. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners. And Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This is Nashville. Engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com. And Neon, presenting Epic, Elvis Presley in concert from Baz Luhrmann, the lost footage of Elvis's 1972 residency, being shown for the first time ever in IMAX February 20th and in theaters everywhere February 27th.
And Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. From ankle sprains to pediatric cancer research, Vanderbilt Health and Monroe Carroll, solving the most complex problems, prepares them to solve any problem. More at whyvanderbilthealth.com. Did you know, in addition to the service we provide on 90.3 FM WPLN, Nashville's local news and NPR station, we also offer classical music on HD radio? Next time you're in the car, tune to 90.3 FM, and when the HD symbol comes on, select HD2. And when you're at home, ask your smart speaker to play Nashville Classical. More about Nashville Public Radio's multiple audio services, including schedules and ways to listen at WPLN.org.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville, a Roundabout edition. We're digesting the week's news together, taking a moment to understand what it all means to the degree we can in this moment. We have Divinity student Sophie Esteves Varvella Vicente, the Nashville Banner's Sarah Grace Taylor, and Bill Phillips, former deputy mayor of Nashville, a couple of times actually, and a Republican analyst. So it appears that Lebanon will not be getting the largest immigrant detention facility in the country. After all, local officials expressed some security concerns last week, and they were still talking about it as if it was a rumor that that this detention facility would be built in Lebanon. And then yesterday, Senator Marsha Blackburn, who's also running for governor, posted on X to say ICE will not move forward with its plans. It was going to build this facility that could hold up to as many as 16,000 detainees. Bill, what does it tell you that supporters of immigration enforcement, like, let's say, Marsha Blackburn, don't want to deal with a big detention center in their backyard?
Well, I smell gubernatorial politics. She wants to be governor, probably will be the next governor. Today it would look that way. And so she saw an opportunity that she has strong support in Wilson County, and that they were showing that they weren't interested, which is not unusual. Who wants a prison in their backyard?
Because that's essentially what this would feel like.
Yeah,
right?
it was a prison or a detention center, whatever you want to call it. A pig is a pig. And so she responded to that, and she solidified some more support.
Well, there you go. Well, were you, listener, a part of the resistance in Wilson County? Do you have security concerns there? You can join the conversation at 615-760-2000 or at the WPLN YouTube page where we're streaming video. Sophie, are you surprised to see, Republicans opposing these detention centers?
I think that, to Bill's point, I'm not as surprised as I would have been. I think the context that she is running for governor does help frame some motivation as to why they might oppose it for now.
For now. We did see late yesterday the Tennessee Attorney General back down from defending a law passed along with other immigration measures last year. It permitted the Attorney General to initiate the process to remove local officials from their post for voting in favor of sanctuary city policies. And those elected officials could even be charged with a felony under this law. But the ACLU challenged it, calling it antithetical to a free society. And the state has backed down. Tennessee's Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti concedes that he cannot support the law's constitutionality, saying the law infringes on principles of legislative immunity and independence. However, under a 2019 law, Skrmetti does say that sanctuary policies remain illegal in Tennessee. So, Sarah Grace, we see the Attorney General active at the state legislature quite a bit, especially during the legislative session. Why didn't Skrmetti discourage passage of the law in the first place if he's like, we can't defend it?
Well, it's hard to say whether he did privately. We don't see the Attorney General go give legal advice. They have kind of legislative attorneys that do that for the most part. That bill was discouraged. I remember during the special session, an attorney saying from the dais, yes, this will be challenged if you pass it. But I think Skrmetti, maybe August or September, he started indicating that he wouldn't back this particular bill.
So this, if you were watching closely, this would not have been surprising what happened yesterday.
Yeah, I think he had said before that he, either this bill or one of the other ones, because there's about 3 bills in the last year that would threaten to put a local official in jail if they did something related to so-called sanctuary cities. But he indicated for at least one of them back in the summer that he wouldn't be able to defend it in court.
Yeah. Sophie, is Nashville a sanctuary city? What does that mean?
It's hard to say if Nashville is a sanctuary city, especially when the Sanctuary Places Act has been overturned by the federal government, where schools, churches, and hospitals no longer are safe zones for those who are undocumented. I think that in more spiritual language, we can find sanctuaries within the mutual aid networks that Nashville has built, and we keep our community safe as a result. But from a legal standpoint, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, it's kind of the heart of the question. It's sort of like when we're even talking about sanctuary cities, what are we talking about at this point? Maybe semantics, I suppose. Let's get to a couple of phone calls. We certainly started off the hour talking about the immigration enforcement actions from May of last year. Emily in South Nashville, that very area, you're on This Is Nashville. Go ahead.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. I've lived in South Nashville a really long time, and I've seen it change. And, for a while it was like older white people and only, kind of a homogenous black-white mix of people that changed over time to having like many different types of immigrants, from Kurdish immigrants and Latin American immigrants. But my call really was about the immigration enforcement. Like when ICE initially came through, I guess last year in that first big sweep that was so public and so scary, like my neighborhood went from a place that was really vibrant and full of sound and lots of people in the street, like in restaurants and different places, being part of the community, to a place where it was really kind of silent and everybody felt like they were hiding, and it was really scary.
So you're sort of saying that I don't know your own race or ethnicity, but you're saying that even, let's say, the white population there noticed a big difference.
Yes, it was a palpable difference. My neighborhood was completely different. And yes, I am a white lady, so I wasn't threatened by this in the same way that other people were, but it completely changed the character of the neighborhood. And you would drive by businesses, like even a lot of us in the neighborhood, like made a point to try and eat out at restaurants and support our local businesses because they were empty. And it felt like it was just hurting, more than people's sense of safety. It was also hurting the local businesses that depend on all of the people in South Nashville who are undocumented, because all those people were home and they were not in those businesses.
Emily, really appreciate your input, and I don't want to confuse the other Emily who's hanging on the line. Emily in Centerville, we'll get to your point in just a moment. But Emily in South Nashville, thanks for the call. Sophie, I'm wondering how much of this, to the degree you know, is still going on? Like, is it still quieter than usual?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, even to points of Plaza Mariachi on Nolensville Pike, which regularly has food banks and community events, has been completely dry without folks showing up. And I really do encourage folks like Emily who do feel safe to go out, to go and support these local businesses, because without them, Nashville is not what we are, which is this beautiful community.
Sarah Grace?
It's worth noting there is a video that didn't make it in because there was just too much video.
This is the body cam footage
This
from
one,
THP.
I think is dash cam, but they said a trooper says to ICE, "Oh, that's a good spot." And he's talking about Plaza Mariachi. And he points out these very same vibrant areas of South Nashville
that he likes
at the beginning of, that are good targets,
Oh,
because
good
they're
target.
going after just exactly that energy in that community that now seems to be missing.
So in other words, this is not an unreasonable thought that Plaza Mariachi would be a target. It looked like there was a discussion of that even on the dash cam video.
And you can look at the map we have of where the stops took place, and that area right outside of Plaza Mariachi was certainly one of the targets.
Yeah. Let's take another call. Emily in Centerville, you're on This Is Nashville. Go ahead.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to say that I believe that Marsha Blackburn changed her attitude because she wants to become governor.
You're talking about the detention facility that seemed to be on its way to Lebanon. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what does that tell you? Uh-oh, Emily, you still there? We may have lost you.
Become governor.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay. It just tells me that she'll do anything it takes to become governor. And if that's what, I'll tell you what you guys want to hear, but we may end up doing something different.
Yeah. Would you have been supportive of this detention facility? Are you saying that, or you're just saying what she's showing you about her consistencies?
Of it at all.
I see.
I don't even live in the area, but I think it's wrong. And I think it's wrong the way how they treat the people that are in detention. Okay, some of them are, if they are actually murderers and rapists, okay, they deserve to be in prison. But these people that come here to the United States of America that try to get in to get a better life, they do need to go through the proper immigration process. However, they don't deserve to be treated like they are being treated.
Emily, really appreciate your input from Centerville. Thanks for calling in. And others who want to chime in on this topic or others today, the number 615-760-2000. Or you're welcome to drop a comment in the chat of our video stream, youtube.com/@WPLN. We're going to move on to another topic, but happy to come back to this at any point. So we're jumping into a bill that has passed the State House, but still has a bunch of hurdles in the State Senate. It essentially exempts private citizens from federal anti-discrimination law. Private banks, hospitals, insurance companies in Tennessee could refuse to recognize same-sex marriages. In the bill, the language calls them, in fact, purported marriages. Bill Phillips, is this kind of thing just making a statement? Because it does seem like it would clearly go against the Supreme Court decision that allowed for gay marriage.
Well, it's bigotry, and you can compare it to the redlining that real estate and banks were doing in the 50s and early 60s, that where black applicants were denied because they were black, and it's unconstitutional.
Well, is this a winning issue for Republicans? Like, if it was purely political, is it helpful?
Well, unfortunately, they think it's a winning issue. They think that there are enough people out there that still think that way, that they will get support. And that's very unfortunate that's where we are in 2026. But again, they're parroting what they think people want to hear. But the people are eventually, and I think it's beginning to start, they're going to get tired of the show at the federal level and the state level and even the local levels.
Well, to listeners, what do you think? Is the legislature just looking to take this issue of gay marriage back to the Supreme Court? Number 615-760-2000. You know, Sophie, you're a Divinity student at Vanderbilt. Lots of references to God and Christianity in this debate in the House. Lawmakers saying that the Supreme Court created something that God doesn't condone. And it is true that most Christian churches still do not really affirm gay marriages. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
I do see that changing, and I think a wonderful resource for folks is the documentary series 1946, which was the first official translation of the Bible that included the word homosexual. Prior to this, that word was not included in the Bible, and as a result has shaped white Christian nationalism severely.
Wow. Well, yeah, but it does seem that there's a lot of people. This goes much deeper than just like a policy question to them. Let's take a couple of calls here. Chris in Nashville, you're on the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So I was just broadly. I think we have to get away from the idea that these are some form of the implementation is not direct. So they're mainly just looking for brown people or people who speak another language, based on the Kavanaugh stop idea.
So Chris, you're talking about the immigration enforcement stops, whether it was in May or of last year or ongoing. That in your view, it's just looking for, in your words, brown people.
Yep, correct. And so we're starting to see ICE activity pop up in different parts of the city now, where these people exist. So all of that's very dangerous because it's not explicit in any way. They're not looking for a person; they are looking for types of people, and then that's extremely dangerous.
Thanks a lot for the call, Chris. And Sarah Grace, what evidence would you point to say, yeah, they really were just looking at the color of the skin, the accent? What showed you that?
The stops themselves were obviously targeted because of where they chose to make the stops, sometimes what kind of vehicle they pulled over. But most of the profiling took place when the trooper approached the window and would make a snap judgment. Is this person proficient in English? Does this person have an accent other than an American accent? Does this person have enough melanin that I should be concerned? And they made these decisions really quickly, made physical or verbal gestures to ICE to either intervene or not based off of that. And some stops ended in a matter of seconds, even for very serious traffic violations like 24, 27 miles over the speed limit, where people who had taillights but seemed suspect as in potentially an immigrant, particularly Latin American, those people were dragged out even when they were found to be citizens for 7, 8, 9-minute stops.
And others were allowed to go?
Oh, yeah. There's one that we pointed out that's kind of almost comically obvious example where a trooper makes a stop of a white Tesla and says, I might actually write a ticket on this one as he gets out of the vehicle.
Because he was going so fast.
He's going 64 and a 40. And then he gets up. It is a middle-aged white man who doesn't even turn down the radio to talk to the cop, who's coming back from a cigar bar after being at a Knights of Columbus meeting. And, of course, he gets written off, and the stop ends in about 2 minutes.
Bill Phillips.
Well, what we're talking about is they're looking and stopping people who are not like them. And that's what all of this is we're afraid of people who aren't like us, whoever we may be, you know.
Let's take one more call before our break. Here's Carolyn in Brentwood. Go ahead.
Hey, so I just came in late, so I'm not even going to maybe speak to exactly what. But
that's
I feel
okay.
like every single call is on the same vein as far as even having an illegal person in the country. It's almost like we're going to brush over that and then go straight to how it's being handled versus this is a big problem that you have to start somewhere. And I feel like it might be good to see if the person that you're speaking with thinks illegal people should be in the country in the first place.
So, Carolyn, let me just understand your point there. You're just saying that the discussion misses the point that the folks that we're talking about, at least a lot of them, are in the country illegally.
Yes, and I feel like that's a big problem to handle. So how would you suggest we tackle it initially? Because if you're trying to find them or find people that are illegal, there's got to be a process that you start with. And while on its face, it might look like you're picking certain people, but that's just logical to be like, we got to figure this out, and this is probably what it would look like. So.
Carolyn, thank you for your call. Sarah Grace.
I just want to point out, of course, there were people who were here without proper documentation. Most of them were overstays of things like visas that allowed them at one point to be in the country, but they had not finalized their citizenship. So, of course, part of that conversation is how do you make citizenship more attainable to people? And that is a problem Congress has neglected for decades.
Yeah, kind of Bill's point from earlier.
But a big part of it is the act of being in the country without citizenship or legal status is not a criminal offense. That is a civil offense. So when you think, how do you address that, it shouldn't, the conversation probably doesn't start the same way as how do you address someone who has committed a crime.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Carolyn. Sophia.
Yeah, I want to just piggyback off of that point. I think that the distinction between a criminal and civil offense is very appropriate when addressing folks who are undocumented, and also the fact that the immigration courts have been slashed in half, several judges being fired without any reason, really, thus making folks who are on a path to immigration have to wait longer and have to wait in the United States.
Bill Phillips, you want to wrap us up?
Well, we've got a long history in this country. Once we got our citizenship, no matter where we might have come from, we wanted to protect and not let anybody else in, whether it's the Italians or the Polish or the Jews or the Chinese, and now we're going after brown people. But the only group that was forced to come here were the slaves. But we have been against all the others at one point or the other. We've got to address our issue, and our caller from Brentwood is absolutely correct. We need to go and say, it's broken, let's fix it.
But is there an appetite to do that? I'm not hearing us heading that direction.
President George W. Bush tried. He's the last one that tried. Ronald Reagan actually made some headway in it when he was president. That's the last time we've touched that public policy.
Yeah.
It is not working. It's broken, and that's what needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And then among ourselves, we need to address the bigotry issue.
Well, the point you're making, Mike Curb, who's a big, Republican fundraiser and former governor of California, made the same point that now could be the time to do something more comprehensive about immigration reform, but we're not hearing much about it at the moment. We're going to take our last break, and our panel's going to be back. We're going to talk about the end of gender-affirming surgeries in Nashville and our Tesla tunnel getting started for real. How are the headlines hitting you this week? A couple folks on the phone. We'll get to you immediately when we come back. You can join the conversation 615-760-2000 or in the chat of the video stream at the WPLN YouTube page. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and the Higgins Firm, assisting clients with nursing home neglect and serious personal injury cases. Online at thehigginsfirm.com.
And Harpeth Hall, offering summer camp experiences in academics, athletics, and the arts for girls in kindergarten to 8th grade. Registration for 2026 summer camps now available at harpethhall.org.
And Vanderbilt Blair School of Music presenting an evening with double bassist Edgar Meyer and saxophonist Chris Potter, Sunday, March 1st, their first ever collaborative concert event, live in Ingram Hall. Tickets available at blairtickets.com.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The Middle, with rising prices and high mortgage rates, owning a home is a fading part of the American dream for many.
I'm 30 years old. I have a full-time job with the federal government, and I cannot afford my mortgage. Owning a home is an absolute struggle, and I will not lie, I regret doing it.
So how is the housing market affecting you? That's next time on The Middle.
Tonight at 8 on 90.3 WPLN News.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville, a Roundabout edition. We're taking a moment to think about the headlines of the week here in Middle Tennessee. We're going to close with the end of gender-affirming surgeries and the beginning of tunneling under Nashville for the Tesla loop between the airport and downtown. And we'll pick up some other issues along the way as we round out the hour. Take some time to call in from every once in a while. Our panel includes Divinity students Sophie, Esteves, Varvella, Vicente, former Deputy Mayor Bill Phillips, and the Nashville Banner's Sarah Grace Taylor. The number to join us on air, 615-760-2000. So Vanderbilt says it will no longer offer surgeries such as breast or testicle removal for trans patients. The medical center told news outlets that it was a matter of operational limitations. Vanderbilt had already shut down its clinic serving minors under political pressure from prominent Republicans. The medical center says it will continue offering non-surgical care for trans patients 19 and older, which would include things like hormone therapy. So, Sarah Grace, what does it tell you that Vanderbilt's taking this step? Is there pressure behind the scenes, I guess is what I'm asking.
I mean, we know that Vanderbilt has been the subject of pressure from congressional Republicans, specifically Andy Ogles, for being too woke, for lack of a better term. The university has. So it's hard to separate those two and think that some form of the national pressure isn't weighing on them.
Yeah. Bill Phillips, you spent some time at Vanderbilt. What do you see going on?
Well, I think behind the scenes they're getting some pressure. Probably it involves money, either gifts or grants from the federal government. And so they're making a business decision, which is regrettably leaving out a portion of the people who feel they need some health guidance and assistance.
Yeah. What kind of impact to listeners, I'm asking here, has this had an impact on your family? Share with us, 615-760-2000. Let's talk quickly about the Boring Company, which is ready to start digging underneath Nashville, starting with a tunnel from downtown to the airport. Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration approved this lease and a permit for the company, and it came just days after the company met publicly with city officials just for the first time. I mean, Bill, this is kind of in your wheelhouse. What questions would you be asking if you were still deputy mayor?
Well, I would be asking for disclosure. I would be asking for them to follow the process so that the people who are going to be impacted in Nashville and in Davidson County would know what is coming and what the plans are, and particularly in the area of safety. But what we have is someone is smart enough to have figured out how they can bypass that and get what it is that the boring company wants.
Well, is it fair to see it that way? Because, if it was another person, if it wasn't Elon Musk who was behind the boring company, it was somebody that maybe the left was more fond of. You could see them loving this idea potentially, I think.
I actually am supportive of let's look at it. Let's see if it'll work and such. But there is an obligation for the safety of the people who would be using it.
Yeah.
Las Vegas has had some issues, and Las Vegas is different. That's sand. We're limestone. There are all kinds of tunnels under downtown Nashville now.
Right. Well, I will not pretend to be a geologist here on the air. I get myself in trouble. But State Senator Jack Johnson, Republican from Franklin's, proposed this state authority to oversee the project, which would even further kind of bypass Metro oversight. I think it's called the Subterranean Transportation Infrastructure Coordination Authority. Sarah Grace, does that kind of thing have a chance of passing?
Well, with it being Senator Johnson, yes, inherently. I think anything that he brings is often co-signed, if not coming from the governor.
Right.
And to Bill's point, I think disclosure has been the biggest problem with this. Yes, the Boring Company has a really bad track record of finishing projects in other cities. I wrote back in November about safety concerns even when they were just looking at the site and hadn't started drilling. But the biggest problem, and they started off behind the 8 ball, I think, with this project because they just sprung it on people and passed a lease on Thursday after announcing it on Monday, did not do public channels, did not do studies, did not do public input, and now everyone is skeptical of it, and I don't think there's any coming back from that on a project like this.
Yeah. If you've got comments on it, the number is 615-760-2000. Come in soon because the hour is almost over. Carol in Nashville, I think you're going to take us back to the topic du jour about immigration enforcement here. But Carol, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Yeah, I don't, and I'm sorry, I probably should have called in earlier.
No. This is how we're happy to come back to it, and this is an appropriate place to wrap the hour.
I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action Tennessee, and just trying to make sure that people are cognizant of the fact that what we're dealing with at immigration and ICE and gun violence and death are very interconnected. The more guns you have on your streets, held by people, carried by people, it is statistically proven that the more gun violence and death you are going to have. And in Tennessee, of course, we have incredibly weak gun laws. We basically have a no permit system where you're just walking through the store and probably, a quarter to a third of the people have guns, either in their cars or on their person. And we have a huge problem with gun violence, road rage. We're number 8 in the country for gun violence and death.
And Carol, can you talk to me about the link you see with immigration enforcement, or is it not exactly linked in your view? I just want to make sure I'm following.
The link is we have an ICE, basically a private police force without adequate training, as we have, we've seen from the whistleblower for ICE, but the stuff that we knew before. Agents that are acting erratically, many of them have not been properly vetted. They are armed to the hilt with guns. And then you have a population that is either protesting in the street or scared and fearful. And agents are coming into their homes and into their businesses. And people are carrying guns.
Yeah.
I mean, the connection, the intersection of those two things is only going to make it more dangerous to live in Tennessee. And so just making people aware that if they're caring about immigration, and we all should be helping to take care of our neighbors, to want to make sure there's due process involved, that what we've seen is just horrifying. If you look in Minneapolis, if you look at Chicago, if you look at LA, that is coming to Tennessee.
Yeah, Carol,
Possibly
really
to Nashville.
appreciate your call. Sarah Grace, do we know if any guns were confiscated in this operation from folks?
I know that there was one stop from the first night, which is all we have footage of,
Right.
Where they had to call the ATF after the stop, but I don't know of any.
So it wasn't a big gathering of illegally owned guns.
ICE was notably strapped up with up to 3 agents who had semi-automatic rifles hanging from their chests during every stop, though.
Wow. Let's do one more call. Paul and Donaldson, you're on This Is Nashville. Hope you can make it quick. Go ahead.
Paul,
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
calling about the boring company tunnel.
Yeah.
This has basically been shoved down Nashville's throat without any preparation. And if you look at Las Vegas, 2 miles of the tunnel, which is a claustrophobic tube, and we're talking about 25 miles in Nashville under limestone, under potential water hazards.
Well, and you're in Donaldson. Are you concerned about it being underneath you? Is that part of what you're saying?
No, I think they're going under Murfreesboro Road, if
That's
I
right.
understand the way they're getting around the process.
Well, Paul, we hear you. Thank you for chiming in here. And we're about to wrap, but one comment coming in from YouTube here. No Top is the handle. Says, I'm trans and I have had surgery. All of the surgeons will likely go elsewhere to practice. This talking about the end of surgery at Vanderbilt, which means there will be no support for me here. I will have to fly out of state for post-surgical care. So certainly some very real impacts from decisions that are being made there. Our time is up, but I just want to say thank you to our panel today. Thank you to Sarah Grace Taylor of the Nashville Banner, Divinity students Sophie, Esteves, Varvella, Vicente, and former Deputy Mayor and Republican analyst Bill Phillips. Hope you guys can come back. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Yesterday's episode was with Mayor Freddie O'Connell. I always learn something from the questions that come in from callers. One, the city actually wants you to leave your tree debris for the city to pick up from the ice storm because it's all being weighed and goes into the formula for federal reimbursement for the city. So yeah, the heavier it is, the better it is for the city at this point. I know, kind of crazy, but let those piles pile up. You can listen at thisisnashville.org, the podcast app of your choice, or watch at youtube.com/@WPLN. Today's episode was produced by Mary Mancini, directed by Tasha A.F. Lindley, Josh Deepen on the phones, Liv Lombardi making us sound and look good. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. You can comment, tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message at 615-751-2500. You can also find us on Instagram at thisisnashville_WPLN. I'm Blake Farmer. Go in peace.
Davidson County Clerk's Office with a reminder that most vehicle registrations and renewals can be done online, by mail, or at one of their area kiosk locations, including Green Hills, Plaza Mariachi, Southeast Branch Library, Bellevue Library, Donaldson Library, Bordeaux Library, Farmers Market, East Branch Library, South Police Precinct, Madison, and the